His striking power amazes the imagination, and his physical strength is the stuff of legends. After meeting with his titanium fists, opponents fell into the ring unconscious like sacks. George Foreman is a man of a great era, whose name is engraved in the Boxing Hall of Fame with 2 bloody gloves. At the age of 19, he won the Olympics, and at 45, he became the oldest world champion in the history of the heavyweight. He dedicated his life to 2 things: boxing and God. Today, I will immerse you in the amazing story of Big George.
Lyles waiting just a little too long. They're both fighting. Lyles got to come back with down to the canvas.
George was born on January 10, 1949, in a suburb of Houston. In a large family, he was a difficult teenager and showed no interest in studying despite all the efforts of his mother. At the age of 15, Forman dropped out of school and had problems with the law. But then he changed his mind, and at the age of 16, he enrolled in the Employment Corps, where young people were trained in various working professions. Later, the guy moved to more promising California, where he became interested in American football. Jim Brown became his favorite player and idol, but George made his choice in favor of boxing. While still in the employment course, Foreman discovered that he had considerable strength when working with a heavy bag. In addition, the young man was distinguished by impressive physical characteristics and dimensions. By the age of 18, his height was more than 190 centimeters. George took up competitive boxing while serving in the Army in 1966, and already in 1968, he went to the Olympic Games in Mexico with only 22 amateur fights under his belt. In the first fight, Foreman had to work hard to win by decision of the Pole, Lucian Trella. But the next 2 opponents from Romania and Italy lost to the American heavyweight ahead of schedule. In the final battle, the full power of the Houston Bulldozer was felt by the Soviet boxer Jonas Chikunis. So, at the age of 19, George became an Olympic champion and the main sensation of the tournament. In Mexico, Foreman was honored to personally meet with U.S. President Lyndon Johnson and received a valuable award from his hands. After the Olympics, Big George switched to professional boxing. His first trainer was Charles Broadus, better known as Doc Broadus. Doc Broadus knew something about proper management of the training process. Having won the Olympics with Foreman, they went to the gym of one of the most terrifying punches in the history of boxing, Sonny Liston, where George became his constant sparring partner. The training was conducted not only by Broadus, but also by head coach Dick Sedler. He personally trained the kids from the gym, despite preparing for important professional fights. However, this did not stop George from cracking his opponents' chins like nuts. In just 6 months, Foreman defeated 15 opponents. In October 1971, George still did not feel the world title around his waist, but by that time, he had achieved a solid record of 32-0. Making one knockout after another, Foreman kicked the ass of not only local taxi drivers and movers, but also such famous guys as George Chuvalo and Gregorio Peralta. In '72, Foreman became the top contender for the title with 37 wins. Heavyweight king Joe Frazier couldn't ignore the Texas puncher any longer. When the contract was signed, the fight was scheduled for January 1973, and they crossed paths several times before this date at various events. The venue for the battle was Kingston, the capital of Jamaica. 36,000 tickets were sold at the local stadium. Joe was a confident favorite among the bookmakers because a little less than 2 years ago, he beat Muhammad Ali himself. In addition, Frazier had already held the belt for several years and had a record of 29-0. Moreover, the level of defeated opponents was an order of magnitude higher than that of Foreman. The main intrigue of the fight was the knockout, but the question is from whom? Both boxers had a powerful punch and liked to go home early to their wives. Already from the start, Foreman rushed at Frazier. But he was not afraid of the giant and tried to besiege him with a signature left hook while jumping. The challenger relied on blows to the body that could cut down even a bull. The champion successfully delivered his best blow from the arsenal, but George's concrete head didn't even move. Fraser made smart use of his speed advantage. But his physical strength was not enough to approach Foreman. Smoking Joe had never faced such a meat bulldozer in his life. Realizing that Fraser did not have enough knockout power, Big George went all in and sent the champion to the canvas. From that moment on, the initiative passed to the challenger. The cold-blooded puncher staged a whole parade of knockdowns, forcing the legendary Fraser to lie on the floor like a sack of potatoes. Muhammad Ali's trainer, Angelo Dundee, who was sitting near the ring, literally begged the referee to stop this beating. But the bloodthirsty Arthur Mercante did not listen to him. Only after Fraser's sixth fall was the fight finally stopped. Foreman became the new undisputed heavyweight champion of the world at just 24 years old. Unprecedented fame, the attention of journalists, meetings with top officials of the state, and numerous interviews fell on the head of the young knockout artist. Big George made his first title defense against Ken Norton. The fight took place in the capital of Venezuela, Caracas. Norton had good boxing discipline and a year earlier had defeated Muhammad Ali himself.
Has he gone back that far? That's not easily believable.
In the rematch, Ken lost to the eminent heavyweight, but again showed an equal and difficult fight.
Norton has knocked out 22 men in his 30 victories.
Experts seriously believed that Norton would create a lot of problems for Foreman. Unlike Fraser, Norton gave the center of the ring to George and focused on working as number 2. Unfortunately for Ken, Foreman felt the distance with his front hand already in the first round, and then used branded hammers. The champion looked sweeping, and periodically missed the opponent, but his iron head allowed him to fight in this style. Surprisingly, Big George worked a lot, and successfully with a jab, something even Ali sometimes failed to do. While Norton was looking at Foreman's left hand, he struck a hard blow and repeated. The knockdown wasn't hard, but it looked like Ken was broken. George spun his nuclear bombs at maximum speed and did not let go of Norton, lost in the Venezuelan reality. Such a strong contender as Ken did not last even 2 rounds. Foreman's name became even more intimidating, and the promoters saw only one big fight for him, against Muhammad Ali.
I'm the greatest. We're going to prove to the world I'm the greatest. This is my last fight. I don't want none of you to miss it. So please come to the theaters. I'm going to eat some raw meat, and I'm going to train. I'm going to get ready and chop some more trees.
One of the most brilliant promoters in boxing history, Don King, took on organizing the fight. Only he understood the scale of the fight, so he decided to make record money on it. For financial support, King went to the African state of Zaire, which was ruled by the madcap dictator Mobutu Sese Seko. The promoter convinced him of the benefits of organizing a big boxing match for Zaire's international reputation. Mobutu agreed to bear all the necessary expenses, including large fees for Foreman and Ali. The boxers endlessly gave interviews before the fight. Initially, the fight was planned for September 1974, but due to the cut that Foreman received during sparring, the events were postponed until the end of October. Despite the annoying little thing, Big George was the favorite at a ratio of 3-1. After all, he knocked out the people who defeated Ali in 2 rounds. Muhammad chose a rather cunning strategy. Before the fight, he regularly jogged with the local population and organized open training sessions many times. The Zairians were so inspired by the openness of their idol that it was reflected in Foreman. As the boxers entered the ring, the audience shouted, "Ali, Bomaye," which meant Ali kill him. The fight began at 4 a.m. Zaire time, so that as many American fans as possible could see the match live. George was extremely uncomfortable with Muhammad's style. Moreover, due to psychological pressure, he flew into the attack too quickly without thinking about his gas tank or tactics. Ali moved a lot, shot with a sharp jab, and if something didn't go according to plan, he simply grabbed Foreman by the neck and pulled him down. In the second round, Muhammad unexpectedly changed tactics and just stood near the ropes. George did not recognize the trick and rushed to show his opponent his best body blows. When Foreman was delayed, Ali planted quick deuces into his head. Subsequent rounds were no different in content. The champion aggressively locked the challenger against the ropes and laid down artillery fire. Muhammad's coach, Angelo Dundee, shouted at his ward to stop taking the blow. But Muhammad did not listen and continued to beat the giant and penetrate the opponent's defense with sharp series. By the 5th and 6th rounds, Foreman's blows had lost their previous strength, and Muhammad accepted them without any problems. The challenger increasingly launched a counterattack, and Joe Fraser, sitting on the ringside, stated that, in his opinion, George would not last long. What happened next is history.
Ali, a sneaky right hand. Another sneaky right hand. This time he works over the shoulder of Forman. The combination.
Ali shot the tired Foreman to the amusement of the Zairean public and scored one of the most recognizable knockouts in boxing history. Muhammad interrupted Big George's 40-match winning streak and inflicted the only defeat in his career at that time. The first failure in the professional ring forced Foreman to take a break. He missed all of 1975 and returned to the ring only in January 76. George's opponent was one of the best heavyweights in the world at that time, Ron Lyle. He was notable for the fact that a year earlier, he had won all the judges' cards against Muhammad Ali, but lost by knockout in the 11th round. After that, Lyle knocked out the most dangerous puncher, Ernie Shavers. Ron's advantage was that he was active. While Foreman was idle, he fought and accumulated potential. Lyle started the fight with a swing from the stratosphere. But later the boxers switched to shooting jabs. The fight was going steadily when suddenly Ron landed a powerful right hand and shook Foreman. Only the final gong saved the former champion from huge problems. George was in no hurry to expend his strength. Remembering the sad experience of the fight with Muhammad Ali, Lyle became bolder and began to attack successfully more and more often. Foreman got tired of being number 2 in the ring and made his presence known. In the 4th round, Ron caught his opponent with a series of hooks. After the knockdown, Foreman stood up, shook off the dust, and sent Lyle himself dancing.
Lyle caught him with a good left. Now George, now George struck back. Now George fought.
Big George perked up and rushed to beat the crap out of Ron. Lyle generated the remaining power into an oncoming left hook. The concrete head saved Foreman from an instant fall, but the cumulative damage from the enemy's blows resulted in a second knockdown. George, as usual, finished the round, and in the next round, he turned off the light Lyle. At the time of the knockout, Foreman had lost the fight on 2 judges' cards, but managed to recover and knock out Lyle in the 5th round. Subsequently, this battle was recognized as the best fight of 1976, and Big George won his first victory in the professional ring.
That's a sure display of rust.
Thank you, George.
A modern boxer would have rested for at least a year after such a battle, but Foreman returned to the ring just 5 months later, and even against Joe Frazier. 2 old acquaintances crossed gloves once again, because Frazier, after that defeat, knocked out 2 top opponents and staged the great fight with Muhammad Ali in the Philippines. The event was dubbed the Thriller in Manila. This time, Foreman ignored the reconnaissance and went on the attack from the first seconds. Frazier worked well with his body and softened the cannon attacks, but Big George didn't care at all. Smoking Joe was saved only by the fact that Foreman attacked in wide trajectories and looked predictable. Nevertheless, a certain percentage of strikes reached the target. And getting hit by Big George is the last thing that would come to mind for any heavyweight of the 70s. The damage accumulated, and Frazier increasingly supported the ropes with his back. In the 5th round, the first shell arrived. Joe rose up like a true warrior, but the battle was lost. Foreman unleashed terrible blows on his opponent from both hands, and even a rock would have collapsed from them. George fought 4 fights in a row against the monsters of that time. Therefore, in the coming months, he lowered the level of opposition and swept through the strong middle peasants like a hurricane. Foreman was one victory away from a new title fight. In March 1977, Big George went to Puerto Rico to fight Jimmy Young, a name not often mentioned among boxing fans. However, you need to know that Young defeated Ron Lyle twice, drew a fight against Ernie Shavers, and gave a tough fight to Muhammad Ali. Jimmy's style was geared towards scoring points, which was an absolute rarity in the 70s. Compared to the scary punchers, he looked like a black sheep. But despite the opponent's inconvenient style, it was Foreman who was the favorite, who gained momentum after the defeat from Ali. George, in his usual manner, took control of the ring and began to look for holes in his opponent's defense. He won the first round in normal mode. But the faster and more agile Young adapted to Foreman's leisurely pressure and began to play his own game. George's signature rush wasn't working, and his face looked puzzled. In the third round, George used a guillotine, but his gloves got in the way. The referee didn't appreciate the jiu-jitsu heavyweight and removed a point from Foreman. The violation unsettled Young, and for 2 rounds the initiative moved to Big George. However, in the second half of the fight, Jimmy looked fresher and acted sharper than the heavy Foreman. And when the former world champion got tired, Young became bolder to such an extent that he arranged for George to meet sponsors on the canvas. So, for the first time in his professional career, the eminent heavyweight lost by decision. After the fight, Foreman returned to the locker room and lost consciousness. When he woke up, boxing history had been rewritten. In the late 70s, Foreman was one of the richest athletes in the world, but because of his religion, he refused to harm other people. In the same 1977, Big George became a preacher and invested money in the restoration of the local church. He also took up the problems of difficult teenagers and opened a sports center for them. Foreman regularly did charity work and at some point discovered that his accounts were empty. A close friend of George unsuccessfully invested the boxer's accumulated money and it went bankrupt. This prompted 38-year-old Foreman to put on his gloves again and return to professional boxing. Big George had been away from the ring for 10 years and wasn't even physically active. His weight exceeds 130 kilograms, and his first training sessions were like hard labor. In addition, in his younger years, George, who was distinguished by his remarkable physical strength, tore his back while carrying yearling stallions and pulling trucks. So non-standard training had to be replaced by working with iron and cutting down trees. In March 1987, exactly 10 years after his last fight, Foreman returned to the ring with a record weight of 121 kilo. In just 2 years, Big George achieved a streak of 18 knockouts in a row. Over the years, the boxer slowed down a lot, but began to pay more attention to defense. Many experts of those years called the old Foreman an improved version of the young one. The first serious test of George's age was in a fight with a knockout of Jerry Cooney. Despite the age difference in Cooney's favor, Foreman looked like a real dominator.
That he really wanted to work on with Jerry Cooney. Oh, there's a left from George. Oh, and look at the left. Come up and slice the left. And Jerry Cooney's in big trouble. He's ready to go. And there he goes.
Jerry got up after a heavy knockdown, but Big George walked by and stuck him through the open window a couple of times.
Oh, and that's it.
Cooney could not be brought back to life for a long time. He had just been hit by a Texas locomotive.
And that's it. And I don't think
Foreman's team considered a fight with Mike Tyson, but Tyson's promoter Don King canceled the fight. But Evander Holyfield showed a strong desire to fight with Foreman. At that time, he was the absolute world heavyweight champion and had an absolute record of 25-0. He folded Buster Douglas like a piece of cardboard and caught his opponent off guard with his combinations of punches. The fight was scheduled for April 1991. The organizers were busy promoting the meeting. Evander, as the absolute world champion, was a confident favorite, but they were in no hurry to write off 42-year-old Foreman. By that time, George had accumulated a streak of 24 victories in a row, and his record was 69-2. For the first time in 16 and a half years, Foreman was again fighting for the heavyweight crown. The fight attracted a lot of attention from the boxing community and fans. It sold 1.4 million pay-per-views, Holyfield's purse exceeded $20 million, and George took home $12.5 million. His once sworn enemy, now close friend, Muhammad Ali came out to bless Foreman. The audience greets George's introduction with loud applause.
In heavyweight history, from Houston, Texas, ladies and gentlemen, the challenger and former heavyweight champion of the world,
The favorite started the fight cheerfully, showing his advantage in speed and pure boxing skill.
Field, as expected, pressing the action.
Got to use that speed from the outside here, and do exactly that. Pop and go.
See what Foreman does halfway through the first round.
Oh,
And Holyfield with a combination.
left hook, right hand.
The left, Foreman is. And here comes Holyfield. Good left.
But Foreman's jabs sent Evander's head flying off like a volleyball. In the second round, Big George stepped up and showed the young boxer who the father was in the ring.
Good exchange.
Looked like he ran into a little bit of a left hook. Oh!
Foreman on the attack.
You're not kidding. Oh, another
Right
right
to Foreman. And a combination.
But, despite Foreman's local successes, Evander had the initiative in the battle. He attacked more often and more accurately, and even attempted to split the veteran's strong chin.
And rocked
Holyfield.
Holyfield
On the
rocked
attack
Foreman.
and connecting. And Holyfield all over Foreman. Foreman trying to hold him off. It's Holyfield now on the attack. George is falling forward and hit after the bell by a Chris Bright.
George did not break under pressure and repaid the debt.
George, a bit of a low punch in there as well.
Well, he's fighting. Well, I'll tell you what, that's what he's got to do, George. He's got to hit that body to slow Holyfield.
Oh, George is missing with that looping right. And another low left.
He is right now. He looked like a
Doing
big
it with
man
the
last
left
round.
Everyone talked about his right hand. He's got some good lefts to the chin. And Foreman with another combination.
Due to his age, Foreman had to take breaks, and at this time, Holyfield scored points on the judges' cards.
Oh, strong right from Holyfield. Back and forth action here. And a left from Holyfield. Oh, strong left to the...
The veteran recalled his youth in the 6th, 7th, and 10th rounds, putting the young champion in his place.
I think he just knocked him off balance. I don't know if he hurt him. But his legs look unsteady right now.
More punches from Foreman, and Holyfield absorbs it in the middle of the ring. And Foreman on the attack in the 7th round.
But watch him come back.
And Foreman...
But Evander came back stronger every time.
Right now, Holyfield. Too close. Right hand rock Foreman. He's out on his feet right now.
In trouble. Foreman, you cannot be saved by the bell. And Holyfield is all over Foreman. There's the bell. George trying to cover up. Holyfield landing. And another strong right. And a left from Holyfield. And one to the body from Holyfield. Another strong right.
The final round, as befits great champions, took place in mutual attacks. Holyfield eventually won the fight by unanimous decision and retained the title of absolute world champion. However, Foreman showed even more than was expected of him in the ring and strengthened the love of the fans.
Have it here at ringside.
Despite the defeat, George was not going to think about retiring until he became a world champion again. He went on a streak of 3 wins in a row, defeating Jimmy Alice, Alex Stewart, and Pierre Kutzer.
You know, Coach is the type of guy that, Coach is the type of guy.
In June '93, 44-year-old Foreman became a contender for the vacant WBO title. His dance opponent was the young heavyweight star Tommy Morrison, with a record of 36.1. Morrison was 20 years younger than George. Foreman, in the usual manner, walked at his opponent, pushing him, and hit him with sweeping, destructive blows. Morrison took Holyfield's tactics as a basis, worked responsibly, moved a lot, and did not get involved in unnecessary fuss. As a result, Tommy was able to realize a functional advantage over the older heavyweight and won most of the rounds. All 3 judges gave the victory to Morrison. After 2 lost title fights, the press started talking about the fact that it was time for Foreman to retire. It was the mid-90s, and 44-year-old George had been idle for almost a year and a half. However, his past merits allowed him to get a 3rd chance. In November '94, Foreman entered the ring against WBA and IBF champion Michael Moorer, with a record of 35.0. It's interesting that these titles were taken away from Evander Holyfield. Experts did not give George a chance. The age difference was 18 years. Michael was at his peak, and Foreman had long since passed his best years, and the analysts' forecasts were justified. Moorer interrupted the slow-aged veteran, and after the 9th round entered on all the judges' cards. What happened in the ring in the 10th round cannot be called anything other than a miracle. Foreman, with a barely noticeable killer double of straight punches, turns off the lights for Moorer and becomes the world champion at the age of 45. This record has not been broken to this day. At 46 years old, Big George defended his IBF title against Axel Schultz. The German heavyweight looked preferable to the veteran, but the victory was given to the more moneyed and famous boxer. However, in 1997, the universe returned to balance. Foreman was outright robbed in a fight against Shannon Briggs, who was 23 years younger. Surprisingly, Briggs had a record of 29.1 and was considered one of the most feared punchers of the time, and he held the record for most first-round knockouts. However, George, who was almost 49 years old, chased Shannon around the ring and did not let him breathe.
This really shows you what a specific art punch. He's strapped punching. You see that? Yeah, it's quick if you have a jab. Very easy if you have a jab. Oh, Shannon's starting to feel real bad now. Low, very more so. Hard right hand across the top performance.
Nevertheless, the victory went to the more promising Briggs by majority decision. It was this fight that became the final point in the career of the great Foreman, with a record of 76.4 and 68 knockouts. George finally hung up his gloves, despite a long and difficult career. The American heavyweight retained his health and sanity. In 1999, the boxer sold the rights to his barbecue grill company for $138 million. This is more than Foreman earned in 30 years in the ring. After retiring from his career, George worked as a commentator for HBO and devoted time to his family. The champion has 12 children, including 6 sons. And what is interesting here is not their quantity, but the fact that all of their names are George Foreman, only the numbers differ from 1 to 6. Now, Big George is 74 years old, and his form is still the envy of even young athletes. Foreman's career epitomizes boxing's golden era of the 70s and 90s, when boxers took on the worst challenges of their lives for the love of fans and packed arenas. George met all the legends of his time and never once disgraced his honor. This man rose after heavy defeats and came back only stronger. Foreman never used dirty trash talk and resolved all issues with the help of 2 concrete fists and huge testicles. That rare case when an incredibly scary knockout artist left behind good impressions and an impeccable reputation as a professional. Well, I hope you liked this video, and if so, feel free to like and don't forget to subscribe.